So one of the most frequent questions I get asked on this channel is, how do I know so much about different cities in the East Bay? Well, that's what I'm going to talk about today. So let's get to it. Welcome to the Living in Oakland, California channel. I'm Rich Fleming, your local realtor, and I'm here to teach you everything you need to know about living, working, playing, sleeping, eating. You know the drill. In Oakland and the rest of the San Francisco East Bay, I get a ton of people who reach out to me with questions about what it's like to live here, how to transition here, what they need to know before they get here, and that's why I do these videos. So if you've got any questions, you know what to do. Drop me a text, send me an email, give me a call, because when it comes to helping you transition to Oakland and the rest of the San Francisco East Bay, I got your back. Now, in today's video, I'm going to talk to you about why I happen to know so much about various cities in the East Bay. So I am not a native Bay Area resident. I am not a native Californian. I am originally from Chicago, Illinois, and I moved out here when I was in my early teens. So to this day, I am still a Bears fan, a Bulls fan, Chicago Cubs fan. So, I've seen all of those teams win championships in my lifetime, so I can die happy. But I'm not native here. But I have been here so long and seen so many changes in the Bay Area, I kind of feel like a native. So what I thought I'd do in this video is just answer that question of how I know so much about the Bay Area by telling you the places I've lived and spent a lot of time in. So when we came here from Chicago, we originally moved to Walnut Creek. But even back then, the difference in the price of a house in Walnut Creek and Chicago was substantial. So my parents couldn't afford to purchase a home in Walnut Creek, and they moved to the city of Antioch. Now, Antioch is a city in eastern Contra Costa County. It is about 25, maybe 30 miles from Oakland. On the freeway, you would get there by taking Highway 24 east to Highway 680 north, to Highway 242 north, I believe it is, to Highway 4 east. So it's a little bit convoluted, but you can get there. And Antioch has been known in the Bay Area as a relatively affordable place, especially if you're a first-time home buyer. So that's where my parents moved. Back then, the population of Antioch was only about 44,000 people, and it is currently estimated to be at about 115 to 120,000. So it has grown substantially since I first came to the Bay Area. The town's history, and just so you know, Antioch's on my list of cities to make a video about, but the town's history, it really started as a shipping port on the San Joaquin Delta, and it did a lot of mining for coal and copper and things like that. So that's how the town came to be. But over time, it has really become a bedroom community for the closer in regions of the Bay Area. So people commute in from Antioch to Oakland, to San Francisco, to the peninsula. So we moved out to Antioch. We lived there for about 3 or 4 years. And after my parents gained some equity in their home, they sold it and we moved back to Walnut Creek. And the home my parents bought in Walnut Creek is the one they still live in. They've been there ever since. And if you've seen my video on Walnut Creek, you'll know that I went to high school and so on in Walnut Creek. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about Walnut Creek because I have a video on it, and I'll put a link below to it, and you can check that out if you want to know more. And that is the case with many of the towns I'm going to talk about, the cities I'm going to talk about in this video. If I've done a video on it, I'll just put the link in the description below. I don't want to bore people into a coma. So anyway, after moving back to Walnut Creek, I went to college. I went to college in Berkeley. So I was there. I learned a lot about Berkeley, spent a lot of time in Berkeley. And after Berkeley, I took a job actually back out in Walnut Creek. I worked for a large insurance company that had its regional office in Walnut Creek. I lived in Walnut Creek for a little while. Like many immediate graduates from college, I lived with my parents for a little while. Then after a while, I rented an apartment in Oakland. And this was the first time I had actually lived in Oakland. So Oakland and Berkeley are located right next to each other, but as a student, you don't necessarily have a car, you don't get out as much. So I knew a little bit about Oakland, but I didn't spend a lot of time up until that period. And I lived in Oakland. I had an absolutely fantastic time in Oakland. I really just fit my character. So I lived in Oakland for a while, and after living there for a couple of years, I actually got accepted into graduate school in Los Angeles. So I moved down to Los Angeles for a couple of years, went to business school, and I had a great time in Los Angeles. It's a great place. It's just not home for me. If you're not from California, there is somewhat of a cultural, regional difference between Northern and Southern California. One is not better than the other. They're just different. So I came back to Bay Area after school. I moved back again to Oakland, lived there for a couple of years, and then I got a job offer to go out to New York City, and I took the offer. It was a great experience. It's an experience I cherish to this day. New York is, back then, it was way more expensive than the Bay Area, but it was a great time. So after living in New York, I came back with a wife, and we came back and we lived in Oakland. It was an easy transition for us. My wife, she was from the Bay Area, so convincing her to move back wasn't difficult at all. So we lived in Oakland for a few years, and unfortunately, the marriage did not stick. So after that split up, I moved to Emeryville. And Emeryville, I've done a video on it, so I'm not going to spend a great deal of time here. But it is a great town. At the time, it had a lot of apartment rentals and things like that. So after living in Emeryville, I purchased a home in Martinez. Now, I have not done a video on Martinez yet. It's on my list. So I'm going to spend a couple of minutes talking about it. Martinez is in central Contra Costa County. It's in north central Contra Costa County. It is just to the east of Lafayette and the north of Concord and Pleasant Hill. It runs along Highway 4, and the easiest ways to get there are either, if you're driving, either to take Highway 80 east to Highway 4 east, and that will take you to Martinez, or you can take Highway 24, get off in Lafayette, the city of Lafayette, and take the back roads to get to Martinez, or you can take Highway 24 east to Highway 680 north, and that will take you to Martinez. Martinez is the county seat for Contra Costa County, so a lot of the government activities in the county are located there. It has a population of about 38,000 or so, and it has a wide variety of housing. So it has become very popular because it has everything from small 2-in-1 houses to 4, 5, 6 bedroom homes, depending on what you're looking for and where you're looking for it in the town. So it is very popular for that reason. You have good access to BART. It doesn't have its own BART station, but you're probably 10, 15 minutes drive from a BART station. Good access to shopping in Concord and Pleasant Hill. Not a ton of shopping in Martinez itself, but it's a great town. So it is on my list to do a video about, but I'm going to move on. So after Martinez, I moved to Hercules. Now, Hercules, I have done a video on. I'll put a link in it. But Hercules is directly east of Martinez, about 8-10 miles on Highway 4. So if you just take Highway 4 west from Martinez, you end up in Hercules. After Hercules, I lived there for about 4 years or so. And then, where did I move? I moved back to Oakland. And I stayed in Oakland for a long time, for about 10, 11 years. That was just really my home for a long time. But there are a lot of other parts of the Bay Area that I spent a lot of time in for just various reasons. So I spent a lot of time in the Newark, Fremont, and Union City area. I dated someone for a long time who lived in Union City, so I spent time down there. My best friend lives in Vallejo, and we owned a business together for a while located in Vallejo, so I spent a lot of time there. My grandmother and my paternal aunt lived in the city of Pittsburgh, so I spent a lot of time there. And over the years, I've worked in a lot of different places. I've worked in Walnut Creek, Concord, Saratoga, which is in the South Bay, Foster City, which is in the peninsula, San Francisco. Did I say Oakland? Yeah, I've worked in Oakland too. I've worked in Castro Valley, I've worked in San Ramon. So I've ended up spending a lot of time in these different areas. And, over that time, it's just given me a good feel for how the different areas are different, what the good things are about them, the not so good things about them, the pros and the cons. So that's a quick snapshot of a little bit about my background and how I came to know so much about the East Bay, the various parts of the East Bay. It is a huge area, and even I don't know everything about every city, but I know a fair amount about a lot of the cities here. So if you have any questions about anything I covered in this video, you know what to do. You can either check out the links below to the various cities I've already done videos on, or you can give me a call, drop me a text, send me an email, because when it comes to helping you transition to Oakland and the rest of the San Francisco East Bay, I got your back. So if you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button so YouTube knows to show it to people with interests similar to yourselves. Hit that subscribe button and hit that bell notification so you know each and every time I drop a new video, and I will catch you in the next video.